What led to the arrest and the death of Chief MKO Abiola? Let me tell you the story. As we all know, Nigeria gained its independence in 1960, but Nigeria did not take full charge of the country until 1963 when Nnamdi Azikiwe took over power as the first president. But 3 years later, in 1966, Nigeria witnessed the first ever military coup in the country, and that gave birth to an interim federal military government. The military remained in power and began to rule until 1978, when election was conducted for the transition of power to civilian administration. Shehu Shagari won the election and was sworn in as the first ever elected president of Nigeria. But 4 years later, after another election was conducted, he won again. But before he could take the oath of office, the military struck again, and then General Muhammad Buhari took over power as the new head of state. But his time was cut short after just 2 years when another military coup happened, which removed Buhari from office and brought on board Major General Ibrahim Babangida. Babangida remained in power since then until 1993. And at that time, Nigerians were already tired of military rule. As expected, Nigerians began to complain and call for the return of power to civilian administration. The call was so loud that Babangida had to listen and decided to hand over power to civilians. Nigerians were so happy, and election was conducted, which Chief MKO Abiola was a contestant. While the election was going on, Nigerians were so certain that Abiola would win because he was actually leading. And then election ended. Nigerians were waiting for result, but something surprising happened. The military quickly instructed Professor Nwosu to suspend further announcement of the result. Then later on, the military announced the annulment of the entire election. This did not sit well with Nigerians as well as Abiola. Everyone was shocked and surprised, and then protests began to arise from every corner of the country. In fact, the international community got involved. The seat of power was so hot for Babangida, so in order to avoid violence, he decided to step down and hand over power to a civilian, Ernest Shonekan. Shonekan took over from there, but was removed from office after just 3 months in yet another military coup. And then, General Sani Abacha took over. Abacha began to rule from 1993 as if nothing happened, but Abiola did not give up as he continues to call for his mandate to be restored. But when it seems as if his call fell on deaf ears, Abiola decided to declare himself president of Nigeria. This did not go well with the military. Later on the command of General Sani Abacha, Abiola was arrested and locked up with no hope of release. He remained in detention for about 4 years. But while he was still in detention, one day Abacha fell ill. Hours later, he passed on. He was immediately succeeded by General Abdulsalami Abubakar, who was later put under intense pressure to release Abiola from detention. While that was going on and hope were high that Abiola could be released anytime soon, the unexpected happened. Abiola died. When the announcement was made, Nigerians were shocked and surprised. Questions flying here and there, answers were needed on how and what happened to him. But up to today, nobody could clearly state what exactly led to his death. Tomorrow, I'll be sharing with you how Biafran War started. What led to the Biafran War? What happened? And how did it start? Sit back, relax. Let me tell you the story. After Nigeria gained independence in 1960, everything seems to be going fine until 1966. That same year, 2 military coups happened. Nigeria witnessed the first military coup on the 15th of January 1966, and it was recorded as the bloodiest military coup. A lot of bloodshed happened that day, which led to the death of prominent Nigerians, including the then Prime Minister, Tafawa Balewa. Many politicians were also killed. Many army officers plus their wives were all murdered in cold blood. The innocence of this new country was stained with blood after just 6 years of regaining freedom from Great Britain. This event gave birth to division in Nigeria. Why? The person who led this coup was actually an Igbo man, Major General Eziogu, and majority of his men were also Igbos. What makes it more suspicious is that most of the people that were murdered that period were Northerners. The Northerners came to a conclusion that this was an Igbo military coup, even though some Igbo officers in the north joined forces with others to stop the coup. They still concluded that this was an Igbo military coup. Tension began to rise in the north, but when the coup plotters were captured, the tension doused and everyone went about their normal businesses, hoping that the new head of state, General Aguiyi Ironsi, will bring the coup plotters to book. But as time goes on, no information was heard as to when those coup plotters will be tried, and then the matter began to die down. Barely 6 months later, another military coup was staged around July that same year. And this time around, the coup was led by some soldiers in the north. This was like a revenge coup, which unfortunately led to the death of General Aguiyi Ironsi. He was killed near a forest at a place called Lalupon in Ibadan, alongside Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi, who was a military governor as at the time in Ibadan. After this event, a northern Christian, Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon, was made the new head of state to succeed the late Ironsi. Not long after Gowon took over, there was an open violence against the Igbos in the north, as the Easterners were being killed and chased out of the north. Their shops were being looted and burned down. It happened to an extent that dead bodies were being transported from the north to the east for burial. The north became a dangerous place not only for the Easterners, but also for the Southerners because they were not spared. While this was going on, the security agency were just watching, not doing anything about it. Although at some point, Gowon made a broadcast calling for calm in the north, but yet the killings did not stop. But while this was going on, General Chukwuemeka Ojukwu was of the Nigerian army as at the time. After seeing all that was going on against his people, he began to call on the government of Gowon to end the massacre. And then the military government of Ghana, led by General Ankara, was worried about the situation in Nigeria and scared that this situation might lead to a dangerous war. As a military officer himself, he was close to both Ojukwu and Gowon. General Ankara decided to call for dialogue between Ojukwu and Gowon, which both parties honored the invitation at Aburi in Ghana. After some argument with back and forth, some agreement was made, which up to today, no one could clearly state what the agreement was. But after the meeting, upon returning to Nigeria, Gowon broke the agreement and divided Nigeria into smaller regions, which gave birth to the first 12 states in Nigeria. According to Ojukwu, Gowon went back on his words on what was agreed at Aburi in Ghana. Both of them kept accusing each other of breaking the agreement. As this was going on, the possibility of civil war began to arise. All attempts from international bodies, plus some African leaders, and even including Martin Luther King, to make peace were all in vain. And then something happened that finally led to the war. On the 30th of May, Ojukwu declared the whole eastern region as an independent state of Biafra. This did not go well with the government of Gowon, who labeled it as treasonable act. This act led to the preparation of war between the Igbos and the Nigerian government.
Our people here have for a long time been prepared for this eventuality, and I am confident of their readiness.
The Nigerian government got serious when they noticed some weapons being imported into the country by the Biafran soldiers. According to Obasanjo in his book titled My Command, he said the Nigerian army actually fired the first shot, and then the Biafran soldiers responded. That was how the war started. This war lasted from 1967 to 1970. I do not want to talk about what really happened during the war. I'm a very emotional person. If I start talking about it, I won't be able to make this video. A lot actually happened during the war. The only thing you will know is that this war actually led to the death of over 2 million innocent citizens. Until today, Nigeria is still feeling the impact of this war. I hope and pray that such things don't happen in our beautiful country again. God bless Nigeria. February this year makes it 48 years since General Muritala Muhammad was assassinated at a traffic jam on his way to his office in Lagos during a failed coup in 1976 by this man, Buka Suka Dinka. His place of work at the time was Dodan Barracks, which was the seat of power as at the time. He was caught up in a traffic jam at Ikoyi, and his vehicle waited to observe the traffic. Unknown to him, that was his last stop. Suddenly, the assassins came out of a nearby petrol station and opened fire directly on his vehicle. Both him and his aide, Lieutenant Akintunde, died right there. Over 20 bullet holes were later spotted on the body of the vehicle. Today, even as I'm speaking to you right now, the same vehicle is currently being displayed at the National Museum in Lagos, where it attracts over 2,000 tourists every month. Kudos to the people that brought the idea of preserving this car. Before his death, General Murtala Muhammad was 36 years and had only served 7 months as the military head of state before his untimely death. The man who led the coup, Lieutenant Bukar Suka Dinka, could not take over the reign of power because he did not succeed. He was later caught and executed by the military at Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison in Lagos on the 15th of May, 1976. Did you know that there is a Nigerian mother that gave birth to a president, a vice president, and a governor? Guess what? One of her grandchildren is a minister, and 3 of her granddaughters are married to governors. Who is this woman? Meet one of the most blessed women in Africa, Hajiya Dada Yaradua. From the name, I'm sure you will be guessing by now that she's related to the former president of Nigeria, the late Umaru Musa Yaradua. Yes, she is. She was married to Musa Yaradua, a former minister, and one of her sons, Shehu Musa Yaradua, was vice president from 1976 to 1979. Another of her sons, Umaru Musa Yaradua, was governor of Katsina State for 8 years from 1999 to 2007. He later went on to become the president of Nigeria in 2007, but unfortunately, his time was cut short when he died in 2010. It did not end there. One of her grandsons, Alhaji Murtala Shehu Yaradua, was also a minister, and that is not all. 3 of her granddaughters, wives of governors of 3 different states. Former governor of Bauchi State, Governor Yuguda, former governor of Katsina State, Governor Shema, and former governor of Kebbi State, Governor Dakingari. They are all married to the granddaughters of this amazing woman. From her son, the late former president of Nigeria, Umaru Musa Yaradua. It is safe to say that this woman is the most blessed woman in Nigeria. When God starts blessing you, it will be as if you bribed him. General Sani Abacha died on the 8th of June, 1998. in Aso Rock Presidential Villa in Abuja. Although he was buried that same day according to Islamic rite because he was a Muslim, but without an autopsy. And that raised a lot of suspicions that he may have been assassinated. And remember, it was during the military regime. Even though the government said it was a sudden attack that led to his death, so many rumors were flying around even up to today that he may have been poisoned with apple by some Indian call-up girls. But was that really the reason for his death?